In this video, we're going to go ahead and finish up on part 2 of our supply worksheet. We're going to focus on supply elasticity and cover things that relate to equilibrium, which is going to be the focus of the next 2 weeks. So make sure you're paying attention to that too. Also, if you have your changes in demand worksheet saved, now's a good time to get that out too, and it'll help you with the following questions of like 7, 8, and maybe even 9 of your supply worksheet. So you might want to have your demand worksheet just on the side, but also your supply worksheet out too. Okay, so to cover what we're focusing on is, let me go ahead and share this with you guys. And we have our sheet here. So we've already figured out, what a change in supply is. We know the law of supply states that if the price of a good or service increases, the supply will increase too. Remember, if I pay you more to make something, you'll make more of it. And on the other hand, if I lower the price of a good, that means that you'll produce less of the good and have less of a good for sale. That's the law of supply. If I pay you less to do something, you make less of it. If I pay you more to do something, you'll do more of it. So we know that changes in supply do not relate to price. That's when supply changes due to an external factor. And those external factors are what we have here, like rising costs of inputs, technology, taxes, subsidies, future price expectations, increase in regulations, number of producers. Essentially, changes in supply, remember, those are based off cost. If I increase the cost or how difficult or hard it is for you to do something, you will do less of it. But if I make it easier for you to do something and I reduce the cost, you'll make more of it. And those are the basic concepts for changes of supply. Now let's move on to supply elasticity. If you've already done the demand elasticity page, this is actually going to be very, very simple. So we know the law of supply, if we're talking about supply elasticity. The law of supply states as the price of a good goes up, the quantity supplied will increase, and if the price of a good decreases, the quantity supplied will decrease too. What you need to consider on this one though, or what elasticity answers is, yeah, we know that happens, but by how much? If I increase the price a lot, how much will quantity increase? Or if I decrease the price, how much will the quantity decrease? So supply elasticity is essentially to what extent will a change in price affect the quantity supplied. So it's to what extent or how much does a change in price affect the quantity supplied? So that's what supply elasticity is. And if you understand that, then the next few parts are actually going to be very, very easy. So we know that supply is elastic when a given change in price causes a larger change in quantity supplied. So think of that rubber band idea. If something's elastic, think of a rubber band. Those are elastic. That means if I change the price a little, so I pull on that rubber band a little bit, the quantity will change a lot. So little pull, big change in quantity. Little change in price, big change in quantity supplied. So in other words, that means a relatively small change in price will cause a relatively larger change in the quantity supplied. Now, inelastic means something that doesn't stretch very much. And you can kind of think of a piece of paper like this. That means a given change in price causes smaller change in quantity supplied. So now my price change or my pull is going to be larger. So I can pull on this a lot. I'm not just like tugging little. I'll pull on this a lot. And how much is it stretching? The answer is much smaller. So that means, in other words, a relatively small change in price will cause a relatively larger change in the amount supplied. All right, that would be inelastic. So I pull a lot, a big change in price or pull makes the quantity change very, very small. Okay, and just like demand, supply is unit elastic when a given change in price will cause an equal change in the amount supplied. That means if I raise the price 30%, 30% more quantity will be supplied. Or if I decrease the price 10%, then the quantity supplied would decrease by 10% as well. It's an equal change to the price. All right, as we go to the graphing, you can see what a supply curve looks like. They're always upward sloping, and we have chart A and chart B. Keep in mind chart A is flatter, and chart B is a steeper curve. So chart A shows which type of supply? Well, because it's flatter, we know that we can change price in a small amount from like here to here, and that would move us from this point to this point, which means if we look at the quantity is going to change a lot, but the price only changed a little. So chart A will be more elastic. That means the price changed a little, but the quantity stretched a lot. On the other hand, in chart B is a lot steeper. That means we can change the price from like up here to down here, but it would only move us from this quantity, and we go up to this price to this quantity. So the quantity only moved this much, but the price changed this much. So it was a big change in price, like pull, but the quantity only changed a little. That is a definition of something that's inelastic. Okay, so remember what a supply curve looks like, and I'll help you out a little bit on number 7. So number 7 says, look back at your change in demand worksheet. Remember, if we in class, I'd have both pages in front of your face right now. But if you look back at your demand worksheet and then look at a graph of a demand curve. So what does a demand curve look like? Well, this is what a demand curve looks like if you forgot or don't have that sheet in front of you. Demand curves are downward sloping. Remember, those have an inverse relationship or a negative slope. Remember, as I raise the price, you will want to buy, or you would demand, a lower quantity. And if I lower the price of a good, you would want to demand or buy more of something. Remember, it's an inverse relationship. So it's negative relationship, so it's downward sloping. On the other hand, supply is upward sloping. Remember, it's a positive relationship. I raise the price, you'll produce more of a good. Okay, so knowing that, if we look at those two charts, it says, look at the demand curve, now look at the supply curve. What is different about those two charts? So I'll give you a moment to answer that, but you need to put that in your own words. The idea is this: if you look at the demand curve and we look at the supply curve, what is different between the supply curve and the demand curve when you look at those two graphs? Notice it's still the P, the Q, now we have an S and a D right there. So what is different about the supply curve and the demand curve? And if you're going, this is a hard question, what's the answer, Mr. Wasmuth? Well, I'm not going to tell you because I'm showing you right now. Look with your eyes, write with your words. What's the difference between a supply curve and a demand curve? Okay, so now that you understand that and know that those two graphs on your demand page and your supply page, since they both relate to price and quantity, they can actually be put on the same graph. This is what we call, a nickname is the PQSD model. It's a P for price, Q for quantity, S for supply, and D for demand. So if you ever hear me talking about a PQSD, or when you take economics later in life and they're talking about like, oh, a PQSD, that's the model you're drawing. Okay, so now that you've answered all of 7 there in your own words, you can rewind back for a minute and see what we said. We'll move on to number 8. So let's say if we have the two charts, how would you, as a business owner, use the two charts to set your prices and order your product efficiently? Think, if you had a business and you were making cakes, you need to decide, well, how many cakes am I going to make this week? Am I going to make 10? Am I going to make 200? Remember, it'll cost you more to make 200 cakes than 10, and that's a per cake basis too. As in, you need to go ahead and get more supplies. You're going to take more time. You need more ovens. You need more mixing bowls and more ingredients. And as you try to get more ingredients, those ingredients get more and more expensive. So it costs you more money to make more cakes, and it'll cost you less money each cake to make less cakes. So let's go ahead and I'll show you how you would use those two charts to order your product or produce your product efficiently. So let's go ahead and we look, and we know that supply and demand intersect, but let's try to ignore that for a moment. Let's say that you're a cake maker and you go, I'm going to sell my cakes for $7 because I want to make extra money. So you set your price right there at $7. Okay, the quantity you'll produce is, well, that's about 85. So you make 85 cakes. $7 makes it worthwhile to make a lot of cakes. That's a lot of money per cake. So you go ahead and go, I'm going to go ahead and make my cakes, make the price $7, a high price, and you make a lot of cakes. So that's a law of supply. But consumers, on the other hand, are going to look at your cakes and go, whoa, $7 a cake? That's expensive. I'm not going to buy as many. So you only sell, let's look at that. At $7, the demand curve says you would only sell 35 cakes. All right, here's the problem. You sold 35 cakes, but you made 85 cakes. That is not the same number. You only sold 35, but you made 85. That means there's 50 cakes. That's the difference between these two numbers here. 50 cakes that no one bought. Well, guess what happens to a cake if you let it sit for a day? It gets old and stale, the frosting gets crusty, and you can't sell it. That means you spent all that time and effort making extra cakes that no one wants to buy. That's a lot of money, time, and effort you put into making cakes that earned you no money. That's called a surplus. And clearly, a surplus is really bad for you as a producer. You made all the stuff, but got nothing for it. It's like going to work and working overtime and them going, we're not going to pay you for any of it. You'd be like, that was worthless. You're not happy. Surpluses are bad. Now, on the other hand, you could have set a low price. Let's set the price here at $3, okay? At $3, you go ahead and realize that, all right, I'll lower my price. You bring your price way down. And at $3, though, you're not getting a lot of money a cake. You're not going to spend all night baking lots of cakes or getting more and more ingredients or another oven to bake them all. So at $3, you make 35 cakes now. So you make 35 cakes. But now the consumers over here on the demand curve are going, ooh, $3 a cake, that's pretty cheap. I want more cakes. So they'll demand, on this case, 85 cakes. So consumers want to buy 85 cakes, but you only produced 35. So you open your doors, say $3 cakes, and all the customers come running in and they go, yeah, give us cakes. And you sell, sell, sell. And before you know it, you're sold out of cakes because you only made 35. But now you have 55 customers in a line around your building going, I want a cake too. And you're like, I'm out. And they go, but I want a $3 cake. And you're like, there aren't any more. They're like, well, I'll give you $4. Well, at $4, you'd be like, oh, cool, but you don't have any. You only made 35. They might say $5, $6, $7, $8, $9. I'll pay $9 for a cake. I need a cake. And you're like, all out. That's called a shortage. And shortages are bad too, because you could have made more cakes and made more money in profit, but you can't because you set the price too low and you sold out too quick. And that means consumers who would like to buy lots of cakes can't buy any cakes because you ran out. There's not enough. The shelves are empty. So shortages are bad, but also surpluses when the price is too high is bad. So let's think about what a business owner would do. If I had a lot of cakes left over, what would I do when I realize no one's going to buy them? Well, if you were a good business owner, you'd start lowering your price and go, okay, maybe I'll sell them for $6. And people would want to buy a few more. Maybe I'll make less cakes and go to $5. All right, at $5, you're not going to make this many cakes. You're going to make less. You're going to make about 60 cakes. And consumers, they're not going to buy only 35. The price went down, so they're going to start buying 60 cakes. And the market's going to take that mismatch that we had and balance it out. Now, let's say we go back down to here at $3. If I had a business and everyone wants to buy my goods and I run out of goods like in the first 3 hours opening every day, and there's a line of people who still want my stuff, I'm going to start raising my prices. So I start raising my prices. And as I raise my price, consumers will want to buy less. And they keep buying less as I raise my price. And if you're giving me more money to buy my stuff or to make stuff, I'm going to start supplying more. And we go up that supply curve until we're right here. Think, if you made a lot of stuff that everyone wants and you sell out immediately, you want to raise your price. Also, if you have a bunch of stuff left over in a surplus, you want to lower your price. And the market's going to go ahead and take us right to where we have something here called equilibrium. And this is what equilibrium is. So to go back to number 8, and we already know the answer, number 9, how would you as a business owner use those two charts to set your prices and order product efficiently? two words you want to use in this description right here are surplus and shortage. Probably want to use a word avoiding surpluses and shortage. And you'd want to order where? Maybe where your supply curve and your demand curve meet up. So if you're answering number 8, make sure the word surplus and shortage is included in that. Now, for number 9, it says, what is the point called where supply-demand graph that maximizes efficiency, where you have no surplus and no shortage? Well, I've already answered that for you, and that is called equilibrium. So that is called equilibrium. Equilibrium means balance. And if you look at what equilibrium is it's this spot right here. It means that people are going to supply 60 cakes and consumers are going to demand 60 cakes at $5. So at $5, people will make the exact amount as they'll demand, and it's balanced. So there'll be no surplus and no shortage. And equilibrium is where every market wants to be. The market forces always want to balance us. If there's a surplus, that wants to bring prices down. If there's a shortage, that will want to bring prices up until they're always balanced at that equilibrium. So that is what we're going to be focusing on in the future when we start graphing more of our models. So I hope this helped you guys out, and I hope you understood. Remember, for 7 and 8, if you're thinking, I don't know the answer, he didn't tell me what to write, I explained it several different ways. So go back, watch that part again, and make sure you put it in your own words. I hope you guys have a good time, and I will see you guys next week.